I will start the timer when you are ready.
Good. Okay. All right. Good morning or afternoon, sorry, everybody. My name is Caleb, as you guys all know. I'm going to be presenting to you about my capstone and my journey into becoming an aircraft engineer. So here's my table of contents. I'm just going to be basically explaining to you what we're going to be talking about in my capstone. So I'm just going to have a quick summary of what I've been doing and what my jet engine is about. I'm also going to be teaching you guys or telling you guys how a jet engine works and how each internal component works so you guys aren't left behind. Then I'll be explaining my progress. So this is basically my step-by-step processes on how I made this jet engine. And then obviously, as you can see, we will be doing a live demonstration. After I'll be talking about my takeaways, and we'll conclude. So here's a summary of my capstone. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be researching about this project. I'm going to be researching about what a jet engine is. Then I'm going to be creating this miniature-sized jet engine, not an actual jet engine, but a miniature version of how the actual thing works by using some spare parts I have up. This is a project-based capstone, meaning that I'm going to have a physical object by the end of its outcome. Why this? I had an interest in jet engines. So originally, I actually wanted to join the military, and this piqued my interest in fighter jets, so I wanted to delve into that topic a lot more, which then piqued my interest in aircrafts. So this is my before and after knowledge. Basically, this is my initial knowledge. I only knew that it would just take air inside the actual engine and turn it into thrust. I never really knew and understood its internal components and how each part works. I never really understood actually how each behaves and the temperatures. I never really understood any of that. I also knew what it looked like. So to enhance my knowledge, I actually used Google, YouTube, and NASA.government to find some images and to research some videos on how a jet engine works. So now my understanding is there's not just jet engine, but there's actually different types of jet engine, such as a turbofan, which is what my design focuses on, and a turbojet, scramjets, ramjets, etc. Now I have an actual general understanding of how a jet engine works and how the internal components behave. I also learned about fuel-to-air ratio, which I'll be talking about throughout my presentation. So some core goals, obviously, I'm going to be researching about this project more, getting and understanding how each part behaves. I'll also be searching different model types to see which one's the best. I'll be finding materials now and testing each material to see if they're durable enough to withstand the behavior of a jet engine. Then, like I said, I'll be testing everything, documenting each test. Then after each document, I'll find a way to actually improve and finalize with my design. So, okay. To explain how a jet engine works, this is how my jet engine works. This is a fan. This is the main component. It will then take air inside this chamber, which is called the combustion chamber, which turns all that air sucked inside into high pressure gas, which is then mixed with fuel. After it is mixed with fuel, it'll be turned into thrust, which this turbine will keep this thing spinning, making it self-sustaining. Unfortunately, my jet engine is not self-sustaining. It does not have a turbine, it just has a motor. So these are my first stages. So for my first stages, I just started to cut out pieces of metal. I had to do experiments with them, and I cut out this 6-centimeter fan for the front of my jet engine. I had some issues with this. Originally, I actually twisted the fans incorrectly, and it was actually blowing air out instead of inside. So I had to twist all of them back, but through this I learned that, not everything is just gonna work out for you. And then for this one, I drew a blueprint of how my jet engine is going to look like. This is actually drawn on Procreate. And that tool on the right is called a soldering. Soldering is basically having two pieces of metal heat up at 450 degrees, which is then connected to each other by using a pen and kind of like a calm manner of welding. And some challenges here, I just started to coil up some random wires at home. Now, coiling up random pieces of wires isn't obviously gonna work. I'm gonna have to research more about the different types of materials. So I went on Amazon and I started to buy nichrome wires and a transformer for the spark and heating of the jet engine. So as you can see, this is me actually making the combustion chamber. The combustion chamber is where obviously they take in all the air in, which is then mixed with fuel. Now, as you can see, I'm over here finding screws. This is my challenge because I actually didn't understand that I didn't have any screws. I didn't have the actual proper equipment. So I had to utilize all the toys I had and take out those puny tiny little screws. And as you can see, I just had to make some measurements by drawing in some of the holes to drill it later on. Here is what I was doing. This is basically my support sheets. Support sheets would just keep the actual motor center and the combustion chamber in place so it wouldn't start moving around. Here, as you can see, I drilled a copper tube with small holes for the gas release. And as you can see, I'm over here designing the supports. I had some trouble with this again. My nichrome wires were not working, meaning that it wouldn't actually heat up because the wires were way too thick. And I just scrapped that idea, and I did more research, and I found out that you don't need that, you just need an ignition. So as you can see over here, right here is my ignition. This is basically me, I just soldered everything together, and as you can see, my ignition is successful. Here's me with proper measurements. As you can see, the supports actually do end up working, and it spins within the chamber. Then as you can see, I'm over here preparing the fan to test it if it actually worked with the 9-volt battery. Then for my mid stages, I just started connecting everything together. I screwed all the pieces in place. I actually epoxy bonded the wires in place, and I also coned the nozzle, because coning the nozzle also helps with that thrust to make it a lot more powerful. Now, I had a really big problem with this. My transformer ended up dying and it stopped working, which means that I had to take out everything again and put it back inside, which is like a lot of work. Here's my first stages. In this first stage, you'll see my jet engine actually working. So as you can see over there, it's a nice little weak flame, but through this, now I understand how it works. I also had a little bit of trouble with this gas gauge. A gauge basically releases gas into the chamber. Now, that little nozzle right there is not supposed to be sticking out, because that's also part of the combustion chamber. With wind, you can easily just blow that away. And to solve the solution, I ended up coning it with another piece of metal, which is a scrap can. And as you can see, there's a lot more flame. It's a lot bigger. Now, I'm gonna explain to you quickly how blue flame and yellow flame behave. Blue flame is right there. That's a proper combustion. A proper combustion means the air to fuel ratio is efficient, having a sustainable combustion, which is really hot. Now, as you can see over here, it's yellow. Yellow meaning that the fuel to air ratio is greater, which creates a rich mixture, leading it to not be as hot as blue flame. And for the final stages, I actually took out the combustion chamber again, and I started drilling more holes within it to create not as much yellow flame, but this whole section here is blue flame, which is actually really good in my progress. I just basically started to finalize my project. I got all the recorded data I needed, got a harder shell. Now here's the thing with harder shells. Harder shells are harder to actually poke the holes to have the proper places drilled. Now that was one of the big issues I had. But through that, I managed to get everything in place. Although it was a challenge, I did get it. I also added a speed control and an ignition. And here's my final test before I actually created that. As you can see here, it's on. That is all blue flame. Now that's what we've been trying to look for this whole time. As you can see, as we increase the gas, you can start to see that it's that rich mixture, fuel to air, being greater. All right, sweet. Now, we'll be doing the test.
I'll stand over here. Stand behind it. Yeah. Come on, stand up. Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, so that's the ignition. Now, let's start off with a speed of about 65.
65 what?
Oh, it's just a percentage. Percentage of power. All right. Speed, as you can see, there's that blue flame we're looking for. As I increase it, obviously the fuel to air ratio is going to be greater, but you can see how much blue flame is actually visible than yellow flame, which is what I'm looking for. As you can see, if we start to slow it down the engine, it's going to start to be more powerful. Yep. Yeah, let's just turn that off. But yeah,
Very cool.
let's just let it cool down. And as you can see, it's nice and warm, not really hot, which is what we're looking for. All right, so as you can see, the jet engine actually ended up successfully working. So all my calculations were correct, and that's something I viewed as positive in this project. I learned how to use new tools, and not only that, I also learned more about jet engines and how I can use this, sorry about the gas now, how I can apply this to my post-secondary life at BCIT. Now when I go into that topic, I'll be able to understand what I'm actually getting into in the field that I'll be studying in. Some negatives, obviously, as you can see, the compressor wasn't strong enough, meaning that that front fan was not taking up enough air to create the actual push or thrust of this object. Something I can do better next time is probably manage my time better. Initially, this was not my original capstone, and I started sometime around April-ish, mid-April, and this was something that I should be able to be responsible with next time. And also, be more accurate with some measurements. Using your eye is a great tool, but not in everything. That's why some measurements are wrong there. But through this, I learned how to, make a jet engine. And yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Next, well then, any questions from the audience? No? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mendoza.
Yes, thank you.